Good morning and welcome back to a walk through the Psalm where we find ourselves going backwards as we were in Psalm 139 yesterday, celebrating life and how God knew us and has formed us and knit us together for a certain purpose and a plan for today, which is just an unbelievable aspect of how God views us and how we are used according to in His kingdom. But we flip back the pages to Psalm 52 and we read that together, Psalm 52, coming off of Psalm 51, that great confessional psalm. And Psalm 52 is set in this timeline. Some attribute it to David during, if you go back to 1 Samuel chapter 21 and 22, speaks about a time where David was fleeing from Saul, was actually fleeing for his life. He was anointed king. He was that next king, but Saul had taken that turn of not wanting to give up his kingship to David in that way. So he was trying to trap David, trying to kill David, and David was fleeing. And David went to a town called Nob, and there was a priest there, Ahimelech, and he helped David in that circumstance where he needed food, he needed just a sword to be able to fight, and the priest gave him those things. And so Saul took that. Actually, Doeg of Edomite, who was Saul's shepherd man, an official in Saul's army or community, he heard all of this because he was in the presence of Ahimelech and David at that time. So he went back to Saul and said, you know, this priest is helping conspire against you. This priest is helping David to be able to plot or frankly be ready for your attacks. And so Saul approached the priest in Nob, Ahimelech, and said that you're conspiring against me, therefore you deserve death. And on that day, Doeg of Edomite actually turned against the priests in Nob and Ahimelech and his whole family and killed 85 of those who were wearing an ephod, which was frankly 85 of the priests in that city of Nob, and they turned on their children, the cattle, just really brought death amongst this situation. So with that in mind, that is a type of a mighty man, that Doeg of Edomite, the words that he used with Saul and what came of his frankly accusations against David and accusations against that priest of Nob. And so that's an instance of where we find ourselves in Psalm 52. It's a type. It's a generality of a mighty man that has power to bring about havoc because of his words or his actions, and how God accuses him. And frankly, then the psalmist rests assured in the unfailing love of God as he trusts in his righteousness. So that's the whole kind of picture developing around Psalm 52. So let's read it together. This is really speaking to that mighty man, maybe Doeg of Edomite in Psalm 1 Samuel 21:22, but these first four verses are really pointed at that kind of type of man. Why do you boast of evil, you mighty man? Why do you boast all day long, you who are a disgrace in the eyes of God? Your tongue plots destruction. It is like a sharpened razor, you who practice deceit. You love evil rather than good, falsehood rather than speaking the truth. You love every harmful word, you deceitful tongue. Surely God will bring you down to everlasting ruin. He will snatch you up and tear you from your tent. He will uproot you from the land of the living. The righteous will see and fear. They will laugh at him, saying, How now is the man who did not make God his stronghold, but trusted in his great wealth, and grew strong by destroying others? But I, the psalmist says, I am like an olive tree, flourishing in the house of God. I trust in God's unfailing love forever and ever. I will praise you forever for what you have done. In your name I will hope, for your name is good. I will praise you in the presence of your saints. A dramatic turn right there in Psalm 52. It kind of pours out those who are deceitful, those who speak against the name of the Lord, those who do not walk in the ways of the Lord or in his righteousness or in his covenant, frankly. And blessed are those who do that. In the last two verses here, 8 and 9, the psalmist is once again banking on refuge, taking refuge in God rather than his own motives or his own success. It is not good by destroying others, by speaking ill of them. It's not God's way of this man being able to live on his own and not heed the ways of God, because that just only comes into destruction. And so we take that into our lives today. Are we in line? Are we banking on the refuge of God? Are we looking to God's unfailing love? Even when we find ourselves in and amongst people that are deceitful, in and amongst people that are saying lies, even those people that are trying to bring us down, what do we look to? We look to God's unfailing love, not for revenge, because revenge and frankly war against them is not how God would have it. So we do forgive, but in order to do that, we have to have hope in the one who is able to forgive through us, and that is God Almighty. So an interesting psalm in amongst a time of history, but also in amongst our lives today. How do we walk forward? Hopefully not as deceitful people that are not taking the Lord's name in awe and in the way that is honoring, but hopefully in a way that today we walk in the newness of life, honoring God and giving Him the glory in all that we do. Let our tongue sing His praises, not denounce His name. And for those who are denouncing His name around us, help us to pray for forgiveness and, frankly, the glory of God to come into their hearts. I pray that as you walk in this day, that you can read this psalm and have hope in the name that is good, Jesus Christ. For He is with you today, and He's going to help you walk in the way of this world. I pray that's your courage, and that's the way you get to walk today. Blessings on your day.